A federal court has ruled against an Obama-era regulation that would essentially keep a close eye on financial analysts and ensure that they sell products that keep the best interest of the consumers in mind. Now, these are non-fiduciaries, essentially individuals who don't have any particular credentials to be selling you these products, but they are salespeople who have titles such as financial analyst, financial advisor, financial consultant, financial planner, investment consultant, and they previously, prior to these Obama-era regulations, had no obligation, no legal obligation to sell you products with your best interests in mind. In fact, oftentimes they would sell retirement products to consumers that would not help them, but would give them commission and also give them other financial incentives to sell those products. Now, in 2016, Obama's administration did implement some regulations to ensure that these individuals worked in your best interest. And yesterday, a federal court decided to rule against those regulations. Now, let me give you those details. In a 2-to-1 ruling, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals said the fiduciary rule requiring financial investment advisors to act in the best interest of their clients bears the hallmarks of, quote, unreasonableness and constitutes an arbitrary and capricious exercise of administrative power.
So I just want to pause there, Anna, because I think that's so important. And I think that goes to the heart of not just this case or this issue, but it goes to the heart of the problem in our government. So it was 2 judges appointed by Republicans, and hence the corrupting of the judiciary. It's not that Republicans can't appoint judges, of course they can. But what they're doing is they're selecting judges that are only pro-corporate, based on their track record of being pro-corporate. In fact, Neil Gorsuch got the Supreme Court nomination because he was the only judge in the country that ruled that a corporation has the right to order one of their workers to freeze to death and then fire him if he disregards that order. That's an amazing ruling. Every other judge that looked at that case said no, but that was Gorsuch's way of saying, I will do anything for multinational corporations, and that got him the Supreme Court seat. So we have pre-selected these judges to make insane rulings like this. So what they ruled was, it is unreasonable to expect that a financial advisor would have your best interests in mind. The reasonable position would be for them to rob you blind. And so like for them to care about you, their customer or their client, and for the government to protect the citizens is totally unreasonable. And that is the corporate position. It's unreasonable for us to sacrifice even a penny of our profits to look out for our customers or clients.
Right. So let's quickly hear from the judges that ruled against the regulations. One of those judges was Judge Edith Jones, who was nominated by Ronald Reagan. And here's what Judge Jones had to say. Only the Department of Labor's semantically created world, in their semantically created world, do salespeople and insurance brokers have authority or responsibility to render investment advice. The Department of Labor interpretation in some attempts to rewrite the law that is the sole source of its authority. This it cannot do. I don't even understand that attempt at logic, because there was no logic there. These are people who previously, prior to these regulations, did not have to disclose conflicts of interest when selling certain retirement products and pushing for certain investments, which, by the way, in a lot of cases, these investments would work against their client. It would actually decrease the amount of money that they would have in the long run for their retirement. But they didn't have to disclose the conflicts of interest. They didn't have to disclose the incentives that they were given to sell those terrible products to these consumers, right? And also, they would charge fees. And the regulation essentially took care of or prevented them from charging certain fees that, again, in the long run would amount to a considerable amount, that you wouldn't be able to retire with as much as you could had you known, what was at play behind the scenes. So it was providing oversight, but more importantly, it was providing information to the consumer so you knew what conflicts of interest were at play and the types of fees you were being charged. So this is crazy.
It's insane. I keep thinking, the whole point of government is to protect people from the duplicity. This isn't just duplicitous, this is criminal, right? Like this is, it's the potential to sort of grift. We're like saying grifting
But
is
even if
American.
it's just duplicitous.
Right, even if it were
it's
just
most
duplicitous.
mild.
Right,
yeah.
right. And I grew up, my parents are both doctors. If there weren't if a doctor could just be like, hey, I'm just gonna maybe give you something that might kill you, and not tell you that if it's gonna make a lot of profit with a pharmaceutical company, although that's kind of happening. But anyway, that's where we are.
Well, we used to have a lot of laws protecting consumers, like a lemon law, for example. A car salesman couldn't sell you a car that he knew didn't function. So that's just a car, right?
Right.
But you could lose your whole savings, and corporate judges view it wholly unreasonable to expect that they tell you the truth about it. Like, so one of the things that they do that Anna was referring to is excessive trading. So when they do excessive trading, they take commission on each trade. As an example, it's one of the many things that could be done. And every time you're losing that money and they're gaining that money. So they've rigged that system so that at the end of the day, thank you very much for investing with us. We now have your money and you don't. Not the whole principle, obviously, but it's a way of milking you for their profit without telling you. And if we could have a lemon law about cars, you could certainly have it about your retirement and your accounts and your entire savings accounts.
Well, think about who they prey on. They prey on retarees, like you were just saying.
That's absolutely right.
It's the people that are most vulnerable, most, in some cases, most gullible because they're not as comfortable with these things, and I'm generalizing, but that's true. One thing to point out, Anna, before you go on, is that this is the Fifth Circuit. It's a 2-to-1 decision. The Fifth Circuit earlier this week gave another 2-to-1 decision in favor of the state of Texas against sanctuary cities. Both of these, so you're not in the 9th District anymore. You're not in this favorable court, but these are both 2-to-1 decisions. In the sanctuary cities case in Texas, they are going to appeal for an en banc hearing, which is all 9 members, or all, I guess, 7 members, is it? I'm not 7 or 9 members of an appeals court. And they're probably going to want to do that in this case as well, because this is what you have with these circuit appeal courts. When they know they can get a good decision, they get a smaller number. They go to a 2-to-1.
So 2 things that I want to point out. One in regard to what Cenk mentioned. So the constant trading that you were referring to, Cenk, is something that's actually pushed toward consumers. So they're referred to as active management or active funds or annuities. And the whole point is so they do constant trading. And again, that's when the individuals doing the trading on your behalf make money, but it doesn't necessarily work toward your best interest or in your best interest, because you will likely lose money when there's that much activity going on. Now, to your point, Michael, something interesting did happen. Now, even though this court ruled against the regulations, another circuit court also made a decision on this regulation that was completely different. And so this is likely to go to the Supreme Court, which isn't necessarily good news considering we have a conservative Supreme Court currently. Now, another circuit court decision has taken an opposite track, meaning the continuing fight could be headed to the Supreme Court. Now, another piece of info that you should know is that the SEC is trying to draft its own version of regulation in response to this. The SEC said it is writing its own version of a best interest standard for brokers. The SEC's rule would likely try to raise the standard of care that brokers must currently meet for all accounts while preserving their ability to charge sales commission and sell in-house products. So obviously we don't have a version of that regulation at the moment, but we'll see how that turns out.
And full disclosure, Edith Jones, the judge, no relation. No relation.
No.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to recuse yourself from this story.
Thank goodness.
See, because we take our ethical responsibility
Very
seriously.
seriously. That's right.
Okay, and one last thing. Those words that she used, Edith Jones used, just really struck me. And again, it goes to the heart of what's wrong with the system. She deemed the attempt to protect consumers as arbitrary and capricious. Like almost a slap in the face saying, how dare you try to stand up for the citizens? No, the corporations rule us all, and they can do anything they like. They can trick you, they can take your money, they can lie to you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And if the government tries to stand up for you, in the rare cases that it tries to stand up for you, we will deem it arbitrary and capricious. How dare they? If you want to get the whole Young Turks show every single day, become a member, tytnetwork.com/join. And once you do, you'll be saying,
I'm like a smart person.
or you might say,
I think it's weird. Or you might say,
oops.
No, that won't be that one. It won't be that one. It'll be great, trust me. TYTnetwork.com/join.